The Galactic Consual Senate convened in the towering spires of Solarian Prime, where the oldest civilizations dictated the order of the stars. For eons, the Senate had kept peace through a single doctrine: no civilization shall wield unchecked military power. That doctrine had preserved stability for 1,000 cycles, until Earth. Humanity's ascent was not gradual, it was explosive. First contact had been accidental, the crash of a scout ship in the Alaskan tundra. Within decades, humans had reverse-engineered faster-than-light travel, weaponized energy fields, and built a fleet that rivaled empires centuries their senior. Their colonies multiplied, their influence grew, and with every innovation, the Senate grew uneasy. Earth did not ask permission. It expanded on its own terms. Where others negotiated territory, humans simply terraformed the unclaimed and made it theirs. Where diplomacy failed, humans improvised, fast, ruthlessly efficient, and always moving forward. The tipping point came when Earth unveiled the Aegis Array, a planetary defense network capable of neutralizing kinetic and energy-based threats. To the Senate, it was the final affront. A young species now held the means to defy a galactic superpower. Debates turned to outrage. Allies murmured of containment. Ancient empires feared irrelevance. A vote was held. The result was decisive. Earth would be disarmed. The official decree cited preservation of peace and long-term stability. It referenced treaty articles written before humanity even had satellites in orbit. The language was sterile, clinical, a bureaucratic scalpel aimed at severing Earth's right to defend itself. The decree was delivered with formality, a diplomatic package encoded with legal justifications, timelines, and non-negotiable conditions. Within 6 solar months, Earth was to decommission all orbital defense systems, disband its interstellar fleets, and dismantle research into strategic weapons. Failure to comply would result in sanctions, blockade, and, if necessary, forcible disarmament. The message arrived at Earth's central governance network in Geneva. It was received, logged, acknowledged, and then nothing. No protest, no appeals, no media uproar. The world governments, military command, and civilian councils held emergency sessions behind sealed rooms. Whatever decisions were made in those first few days, the galaxy was not informed. On the Senate floor, confusion turned to arrogance. "They are calculating surrender," said one archon. "A wise decision," said another. Predictions of compliance dominated private memos. "The humans understand force. They'll yield." But across the stars, in the orbit of Mars, something else stirred. Shipyards accelerated. Transmissions encrypted themselves with protocols never seen before. Patrols doubled, then vanished entirely from radar. Earth's embassies requested the immediate return of all citizens abroad. Civilian transports arrived at foreign spaceports with military escort. On colony worlds, faint murmurs turned into questions. Why were Terran facilities going dark? Why were hyperspace lanes near Sol suddenly restricted? Why did Earth, once so vocal in diplomacy, fall utterly silent? The Senate requested updates. Earth responded with generic acknowledgments. No details, no explanations. Inquiries were bounced, redirected, or simply lost in digital voids. To the untrained observer, it looked like chaos. But beneath the silence, something else was happening. Humanity was preparing. In the outer rings of Jupiter, the Titan foundries ran nonstop. On Luna, automated drone swarms began sculpting unregistered constructs along the dark side. The Terran AI grid pulsed with subquantum signals. Even Earth's ancient rivalries, the fragmentation of governments, the schisms of ideology, seemed to meld away into unified coordination. Still, the Senate did not see it. They saw fear. They saw a species finally realizing it had overreached. They were wrong. Humanity had heard the demand, and it had made a decision. Not to surrender, not to negotiate, to endure. Not in defiance, not in rage. In absolute, unwavering conviction. The kind of conviction the galaxy had forgotten. Until now, days turned to weeks. The Senate waited. No fleet stood down. No defense platforms powered off. Earth offered no clarification, no protest. Only silence. An ominous, calculated quiet that began to fracture the confidence of those who believed compliance was inevitable. Intelligence reports from allied species were conflicting. Some claimed Terran forces had abandoned their outer colonies. Others insisted new military installations were appearing in previously unoccupied sectors. A few suggested Earth was dismantling certain systems, only to rebuild them in different configurations, faster, leaner, more concealed. But no verifiable proof emerged. Probes dispatched near Sol vanished. Long-range scans were jammed or returned meaningless data. Earth had gone dark. The Senate interpreted this as delay tactics. They issued a second transmission, more forceful, citing non-compliance, threatening escalation. Earth's reply was a single-line acknowledgement. No elaboration. No submission. Underneath the calm, pressure built. Several member species began voicing discomfort. Humanity's unpredictability had always unnerved them, but now it was paired with total silence. No saber-rattling. No threats, just the steady accumulation of tension, like the moment before a storm breaks. Within Terran space, movements began that defied all known protocols. Civilian traffic was rerouted. Entire sectors declared no-fly zones. Mining operations were relocated closer to military installations. Supply convoys multiplied, but not toward the borders, toward the core. And every piece of infrastructure shifted into lockstep coordination. Analysts in the Senate tried to decipher Earth's strategy, but there was no precedent, no pattern to match against. Earth wasn't following the established playbook of galactic brinkmanship. It was writing its own. Worse, there were whispers from fringe systems, independent merchants claiming to have encountered Terran ships with unfamiliar designs, operating without IFF signatures. Some said entire flotillas slipped past standard sensors. Others reported ghost signals, fleets that appeared for seconds before vanishing into nothing. Officially, these were dismissed as sensor glitches or pirate exaggerations. But the data kept coming. Some within the Senate began to understand. Earth wasn't stalling. It was positioning. And then, without warning, the first undeniable move, a Terran diplomatic withdrawal. Embassies closed. Delegates returned to Earth. Every Terran citizen, soldier, scientist, and even trade negotiator was recalled from foreign worlds. Overnight, Earth severed all official communication lines beyond a narrow corridor of automated replies. Trade deals suspended. Joint military operations terminated. Cultural exchanges halted. The gesture was not loud, not violent, but its implications were seismic. Humanity had pulled back not in retreat, but in preparation. Galactic markets rippled. Allied planets with heavy dependence on Terran tech or logistics began to feel the strain. Military contractors lost Terran clients. Energy distribution lines slowed. And in the chaos, Earth said nothing. Not a single word. In the vacuum, rumors bloomed. Some believed Earth had developed a weapon so powerful it no longer needed alliances. Others feared it had uncovered something in deep space, something that made the Senate irrelevant. A few wondered if humanity was uniting not just politically, but existentially, for a transformation the galaxy couldn't predict. The Senate convened again in emergency session. What was mentioned, cautiously, some spoke of preemptive strikes, but none could agree on a plan. No one knew where to hit. Earth's fleets were cloaked, dispersed, or refitted beyond recognition. Traditional invasion routes were now impossible to assess, and no species wanted to be the first to trigger a confrontation with an opponent whose capacity had become invisible and whose silence had become deafening. One report mentioned that Earth's lunar defense grid had been replaced with something not even the Senate's most advanced sensors could classify. No energy signature, no visible infrastructure, just absence. And that was the most terrifying detail. Humanity had become quiet, too quiet, not because it was afraid, but because it no longer needed to explain itself. Without announcement, without ceremony, Earth acted. In the outer reaches of neutral space, a consual diplomatic convoy en route to Seoul vanished from known space for precisely 37 seconds. When it reappeared, it had been redirected back to its point of origin, perfectly intact, every system untouched, except for its navigational core, which now contained a single file. Coordinates that, when decoded, displayed an unmistakable signature: Terran origin, unknown technology, zero margin for error. The message was clear. Earth had not simply fortified. It had transcended conventional defense. It had bent space around itself and made a silent declaration: approach at your own peril. The Senate scrambled to respond, but the window had already closed. Over the next 10 days, every previous assumption about humanity's capability was discarded. Reports began to surface from sympathetic fringe species. Earth had not dismantled its fleets. It had restructured them. What had once been standard cruisers and carriers were now modular ghost fleets, capable of adaptive cloaking, self-repair, and autonomous AI command. They operated in silence, communicating through quantum-linked bursts that left no trace. They could fold between systems and patterns that no known algorithm could predict. The old Terra Navy had been replaced by something new, distributed, invisible, and precise. The Senate's worst fear was confirmed when Earth revealed its true gambit, not through announcement, but through a cascade of untraceable signals that simultaneously activated across dozens of systems. These were the founding protocols of the Terran Accord, a new interstellar alliance, forged not through conquest but invitation. Earth had not gone silent to isolate itself. It had done so to form something larger. From former Earth colonies to independent stations disillusioned with the Senate's authority, species joined in rapid succession. Not through force, not through bribery, but through a single shared truth. Earth protected its own, and it offered others the same. Membership came with no tribute, no surrender of sovereignty, only a promise: mutual defense, open innovation, and refusal to bow to fear. Earth's unyielding stand had become a rallying point for those long silenced by Senate bureaucracy and ancient hierarchies. The technologies Earth had hidden were now shared selectively with Accord members. Medical breakthroughs, terraforming advancements, defense networks so advanced they made previous designs obsolete. But Earth kept one thing to itself: the source of its transformation. The few who saw it spoke in fragments. They described a command structure unlike anything in known space, decentralized yet precise. Terran AI nodes connected across all Accord systems, adapting in real time, responding before threats even materialized. Earth had fused synthetic logic with human instinct, creating a force that could act instantly without orders, but always in alignment with purpose. It wasn't about weapons. It was about will. This wasn't defiance for the sake of pride. This was preparation born of memory. Humanity remembered being powerless, being invaded, dominated, told to fall in line. Earth remembered every time it was told it wasn't ready, wasn't evolved enough, wasn't welcome. And so it had prepared in silence. Not to conquer, but to ensure it never knelt again. The Terran Accord was not just a response to the Senate's ultimatum. It was the rejection of an old order, a system that maintained peace through suppression. Earth offered a new model: peace through strength, but not aggression. Freedom, but guarded. Power, but distributed. The Senate tried to contain a species. What they encountered was a force that had outgrown containment. Not because of superior firepower alone, but because of unmatched resolve. In the Senate's highest chambers, panic turned to resignation. Their decrees no longer held weight. Their threats echoed with no audience. Earth had never replied in kind because it had no intention of entering a debate. It had evolved beyond the need to argue its existence. And now, entire regions of space aligned with a singular philosophy: do not provoke, do not trespass, stand equal, or stand aside. The message had never been spoken aloud, but everyone understood it now. Humanity did not intend to dominate the galaxy. It simply refused to be told it couldn't shape it. The Senate convened for what it declared an emergency summit, but no directives were issued. No resolutions passed. They gathered not to decide humanity's fate, but to absorb the realization that it was no longer theirs to control. The Terran Accord had solidified. Its reach now stretched through former border systems, trade routes, and resource corridors once policed by the Senate. Dozens of non-human civilizations, once compliant, once silent, stood beside Earth. Not subordinates. Allies. The original disarmament order was quietly withdrawn without debate. The documentation vanished from public archives. No apology was issued. No statement of failure acknowledged. But the actions spoke louder than words. The Senate had conceded. Humanity's official response came not from a delegation or broadcast, but from a brief data pulse sent directly to the Senate's internal network. 5 words. We do not seek war. There was no follow-up, no threats, no demands. That was the end of it. But the galaxy had changed. Within months, previously unaligned species requested admission into the Terran Accord. Some were small collectives seeking protection. Others were industrial powers seeking relevance in the new order. Even a few longtime Senate affiliates began talks under pseudonyms and encrypted channels. Not because Earth offered wealth or dominance, but because it offered agency. A future. The balance of power shifted in silence. No war erupted. No grand confrontation. But every star system that once echoed with Senate decrees now pulsed with uncertainty. Earth had not fired a shot. It had only refused to surrender, and the consequences rippled across generations. The fear of humanity had always been their potential for violence. But the Senate had misunderstood the true danger. Humanity's refusal to be cornered. It wasn't rage that built their fleets. It was memory. Memory of subjugation, of being underestimated, of being told again and again what they were not allowed to become. Earth's victory wasn't military. It was existential. They didn't win by overpowering. They won by enduring the demand to kneel and choosing, without spectacle, to stand instead. Those who had once mocked Earth's ambition now rewrote their diplomatic lexicons. Aggression became proactive defense. Stubbornness became principled resilience. In private, Senate members began restructuring their own systems, mimicking Terran logistics, adopting modular fleet design, upgrading AI infrastructure. Too late to lead, but fast enough to follow. The Terran Accord declared no capital, no central command. Its nodes operated autonomously. Its decisions were made by consensus, human, alien, synthetic. Earth was its origin, not its ruler. And that distinction made it stronger than any empire the Senate had known. The most remarkable transformation wasn't technological. It was philosophical. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a military bloc had formed not through conquest, but through trust in a partner that never asked for allegiance, only mutual survival. From outer colonies to core systems, the name Earth now carried weight. Not because of what it took, but because of what it refused to give up. And in the silence that followed, the galaxy learned a new law, one not written in ancient decrees or ancient alliances. Humanity would not be silenced. They would not be leashed. They would not ask permission to exist on their terms. And in doing so, they redefined what power looked like, not as fear imposed from above, but as strength born from unity, from purpose, and from a quiet, immovable truth. You can threaten humanity. You can isolate it. You can try to contain it. But you cannot command it, because once Earth decides to stand, it does not move for anyone.